Hello there. Welcome to Leading Your Way, Leveraging Your Leadership Style for School Success. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. My name is Dawn, and I'm the Teacher Programs Manager here at the Van Andel Institute for Education. And all of the strategies, resources, and ideas that I'll be sharing today are found in that handout, which I believe Robin is putting into the chat box now. Hey there, Robin.
Hi, Dawn. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
Awesome, thank you. So go ahead and grab that handout, and you can use that as we're going through our webinar today. And of course, this webinar is being recorded, so you can access that after this webinar tonight. And then also shout out to those of you that are on the webinar at the recording. Thank you for joining us there too. Today's webinar is sponsored by Blue Apple Projects. These are projects-based learning units that are meant to engage your students, teach the content your teachers need to teach, all while making the world a better place. Each Blue Apple project comes with everything your teachers need to bring authentic learning to life in their classroom. And because you are on the webinar live or recorded, you can save 10% on your Blue Apple projects using the coupon code webinar at blueappleteacher.org. Okay, so for today, we are going to first take a look at creating your leadership story. Really trying to figure out how we can become those authentic leaders to set ourselves up for success. Then we're going to put it all together, and I'm going to send you away with a checklist to help with that. And then finally, talking about how you can find support that complements your leadership. Oh, and then my favorite part is we do have a giveaway, so stay tuned, stay till the end, and you will have a chance for some fabulous prizes. Okay, so let's dive into your leadership story. And just wanted to let you know that we know administrators do not have time to pore over these types of books. And so we did that. We took these 3 books here and used that to create our content for today. And these books are also linked in the handout. So go ahead and you can take a look at those at any time if you're interested. So there's this dichotomy when we're thinking about our personal life and our professional life, or what I like to call the tale of 2 yous. And it could be this internal struggle between who you are personally and who you are professionally. And so one great exercise to do to really help you kind of think about and molding this leadership story is, what are the words, characteristics that describe you in each of these identities? And how do others see you? Do you think people perceive you differently than you perceive yourself? And why might that be? So to really, truly lead with authenticity, we need to merge these 2 identities. This will help us have clarity and purpose. Well, how do we do that? How do we merge these 2 identities? Well, one way to do that is to create a leadership story, because your leadership story is based on you. It's based on your personal leadership style. So what style do you gravitate more towards? What are your core values? What are those beliefs, those principles that don't waver, that guide your decision making? What is your mindset? Is it a mindset that's influencing or possibly interfering with moving you forward or moving your school forward to meet your goals? And what are those life experiences that really make you you? And how can you bring that into your leadership story? So let's take a look at each one of those. And we're going to start off here with our leadership style, thinking about that. So I will give a little disclaimer here. There are many types of leadership styles, but I want to start off sharing 3 of the main leadership styles. And this has almost been 100 years, right, from Kurt Lewin, psychologist. And this first style here is the autocratic or directing leadership. This type of leader really kind of values that control of that position. So they want full control over team decisions. They really do believe that their employees just need more direction and kind of ongoing monitoring. They motivate others by kind of enforcing those rules. Now, this type of leadership style is very effective in times of crisis when quick decisions need to be made It's also very effective if you have staff members that just need more direction or maybe close monitoring as well. An example of a directing or autocratic leader, an effective leader, is Bill Gates. Second leadership style is the more democratic or guiding leadership style. And these leaders value that input and feedback from their staff. They want a very collaborative environment where their staff are empowered to help make decisions. And instead of giving directives, they're guiding more through questioning or coaching. This is really effective in a building where the culture is of empowerment and engagement. An example of an effective democratic leader is Nelson Mandela. And then finally, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from autocratic, we have the laissez-faire or enabling leader. And these are very hands-off leaders. They give their employees an incredible amount of autonomy, giving them a lot of latitude, and they have complete control over their goals and how they meet their goals. And so these leaders are explicitly trusting of their staff to get the job done, to get it done right and on time. And an example of that would be Warren Buffett. And so if you're interested in looking at these a little bit more and maybe possibly where you might fit into that, there is this leadership style quiz. You can snag that QR code or the bit.ly from the screen, or Robin's putting that into the chat box as well. So you can take a look at that for your references if that's something you're interested in. Now, I did mention before, there are many different types of leadership styles. These were the three main that have been around for a while, but I wanted to share a couple that are more education focused. The first here is that servant leader. You know, if you're a servant leader, you're always putting that service to others above all else. You're always thinking about how will this decision impact my staff or this group of people. You're very collaborative. You tend to share the power, and you also want to help your colleagues, solve challenges. You want to coach them and guide them to that. And you see a lot of this type of leadership in schools. Another one that's very prominent in schools is more of an instructional leader. And this type of leader focuses on student outcomes. They really value teaching and learning and moving the needle forward and transforming education. And so they're willing to take risks. They're challenging status quo. They're very innovative. Again, a disclaimer, there are many more leadership styles, and we all have kind of preferred approaches. We have preferred styles that we gravitate towards. However, there are certain times where we might have to employ a different leadership style that we might not be comfortable with, or something we just don't prefer. For example, and I think back into the pandemic, during that time, quick decisions needed to be made. So a more directive or autocratic leadership style might have been used in order to make those quick decisions, because trying to get the input or feedback from all different parties just wasn't feasible that time. You may also have different employees that respond differently to different leadership styles, and that's something we call situational leadership. So if you're interested in something like that, I do have a link into a few resources in the handout as well. With that being said, leadership style is really important just for you to understand where you gravitate towards. So this is a question I just want you to think about right now. Of these 5 that I shared, which of these styles do you gravitate more towards? Are you more of that autocratic type of leader, democratic, laissez-faire, more of a servant or instructional leader? And there's probably a little pieces of each of those that might make up your style. But it's really important just to be aware and understand that style in order to understand and complete that leadership story, to move towards an authentic leadership approach. Okay, so the second part to creating that leadership story is our core values, understanding what those are, and they're unique to each one of us. These are those guiding principles and beliefs that don't waver. This is the lens that you use to make your decisions. And those beliefs are something that is personally you, and it's based upon your life experiences. And they may have changed when you were younger and maybe have morphed a little bit, but right now, this is the lens you use to make decisions, to tackle challenges, and whatever comes your way. And so you have your personal core values, but those also play a part into your school or your organizational core values. For example, we have core values here, and these values here at the Van Andel Institute, we live and breathe by. We use those as a filter or lens to make all of our decisions. So one great exercise is to take a list like this and try to figuring out what are my non-negotiables? What are those core values that I will not waver from? And maybe thinking about what are my top 5 or maybe 7 there. And so one quick way to do that is if we take a look at each column. So let's take a look at the first column together. Take a few seconds. Are there 2 or 3 words that just pop out at you? Like, yep, that's me. Let's do the same thing with the second column. Are there 2 or 3 that resonate with you? And then finally, that third column. Now, this was a very unscientific way of identifying core values in a very quick way, but in the handout, I do share some directions on how to do this when there's a little bit more time to really investigate what those are. Now, this is a great exercise to also bring to your staff. And so we did put together a resource in the handout, and it's the core values card sort. So, maybe at your next staff meeting or an upcoming meeting, you have these cards cut out at tables for your teachers, and they can use this to really identify what are those non-negotiables, what are their top 5 or 7 core values. Because not only is that going to help them become just more aware, self-aware, but it's also great to be able to see kind of what are their colleagues or their teachers that they work very closely with. How do they complement each other as well? And how do they complement your school values, your organizational values? So just another great resource to really try to intentionally become aware of what your values are and how that completes your leadership story. So again, I just want you to think or reflect right now, thinking about where you're at on your core values. On a scale of 1 to 5, how aware are you of your values? Are you at the never really thought about it, right, type of thing? Or are you more at a number 5? You know what your core values are, you use them every day with intention. Okay? So just something to think about as, again, you're creating that leadership story. So we talked about leadership style. We talked about core values. The third part to that leadership story is the mindset. Now, in education, we have done a lot of work and talked a lot about mindset, since Carol Dweck's book came out in 2007. What I want to really focus on more is a little bit of that misconception where this need that we have to be in this growth mindset all the time. And that is not the intent, and nor is that practical. It is more of a continuum, depending upon the context or the situation. But when we're talking about your leadership story, I wanted to just kind of address those 2 ends of the spectrum, that fixed end and that growth end. Primarily because your mindset is going to greatly influence the decisions you make at a point in time. So depending upon where you're at in your mindset could really help, or it could possibly hinder decisions that you need to make. And so if you're spending a lot of time in that fixed mindset or that fixed end, you're really having a hard time maybe embracing change, or having that feeling that everything has to be perfect before we go out with this plan or this idea. And research has shown that the more fixed mindset you're employing all the time, the more exhausted you can become, which then can equate into burnout. And we know burnout, we've talked a lot about burnout, and it surprised me that even before the pandemic, the World Health Organization recognized it as an occupational phenomenon. And it really truly affects those high achievers, right? And those in fields of service the most. And you think about education, field of service, and we've got a lot of high achievers in education. After doing a little bit more research, I found a statistic that it surprised me quite a bit in this report, that the average tenure of a principal is 4 years. and that the turnover is almost annually is almost 20%. So those numbers really startled me a little bit, and I don't want to make this all doom and gloom. Wasn't sharing that, but just showing that reality is if one part of that factor of possible burnout or exhaustion can be attributed to mindset, there are some things that we can do to help with that, to kind of move more to that growth end of the mindset as a leader. So I'm going to share with you a few suggestions to do that. First is seeking out new things, and especially talking about your own professional development. Okay, seeking out something that you wouldn't normally sign up for, and maybe it is professional development on growth mindset as a leader. Connecting with like-minded school leaders who really understand your challenge, and you guys can collaborate about that. Seeking out those teachers who are doing innovative, amazing work in your school. You know, talking to those teachers, getting into their classrooms, affirming them, but also sharing that out as a model, as where you may want to aspire to be for your school. This one's a tricky one, that reframing that negative self-talk, and that's that kind of negative loop that we can sometimes get into. And so just to give you an example of what reframing negative self-talk might look like, here's an example. You know, I am so overwhelmed. I have too much on my plate, and I'm not able to lead the way I want to. You know, maybe you felt that way. So how can you reframe that? Well, here's the positive counterpart. I have the choice to make a change. There is only so much I can do in a day. Let's make it matter. So just putting more of a positive spin on something before you kind of get down into the kind of that negative type of mindset. Encouraging others to make decisions. And I almost like the word empowering more so. Empowering your staff, the people that you serve, to take on some of those decisions for you. Listening to your community members' problems, but not always trying to solve them. And I know that you have parents and community members that are emailing, coming into your office and with different problems. And you just can't solve every single one of them, but you can listen. And by active listening and showing empathy, hopefully that's going to promote that empowerment so that they will find those solutions and take action on themselves. And so those are just a few tips to help move more to that growth end of the continuum as a leader. So we just took a look at mindset. We talked about core values and leadership style. Now let's take a look at life experiences, because your life experiences are what makes you who you are today. You wouldn't be where you're at without those different experiences you've had. So let's use them to motivate and inspire others. Now, that doesn't mean you're bringing your diary to your next staff meeting and reading from an entry from 1987, right? That's not what that means. But you are sharing pieces and parts of your experiences that have shaped who you are as a leader. So for example, your first job, right? We've all had them. We've all had first jobs. Is there something you can bring from that learning into your leadership? What about your first experience with leaders? You know, both those really great leaders you want to be or emulate, or those really toxic leaders that you're like, this is definitely how I'm not going to be as a leader. And any other lessons that you've learned early on that you can bring into your leadership, into your story, and sharing with your staff to show that authenticity. So I'd like you to think about that. You know, thinking about how can you use your life experiences to help you lead. So let's summarize here, and just want you to think about here again, reflecting these areas of leadership, of your leadership story, and which one of these would you like to focus on more intentionally? Do you want to take a little bit deeper dive into kind of your leadership style and where you're at in these different styles? What about your core values? Really understanding what they are and how they inform your decisions. Checking in on your mindset. You know, where is it? Your mindset may change throughout the day, right? It may go like that, up and down. So where are you in your mindset? And is it helping or is it hurting the decisions that you need to make? And then finally, what are about those life experience? What are those things that you can bring into your leadership to show that true, authentic self? Okay, so let's put this all together. Leading with your true self. So I'm going to share with you kind of this checklist that you can walk away with. This is in the handout as well. So it just ties in everything we just talked about, and then sharing a little bit more specifics as well. I really love this quote from Gandhi. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. That's true authenticity. So first, you really need to know who you are as a leader, right? What is that leadership style? And understanding what your mindset is, being aware of it, learn from and use your life stories, which we already talked about. Again, acting on your values, right? So this is just a summary, what we just did. Grounded and genuine. What you see is what you get. So I was reading one of the books that I highlighted earlier, and I really like the analogy that thinking about a house, and each one of the rooms of a house is a different maybe group of people. You have your colleagues, maybe you have your peers, you have your family in one group, you have your friends in one group, in one room. But we really want to break down those walls, create this open concept home, because whatever room you are going into, you need to be that same person, that grounded and genuine person. So what you see is what you get for true authenticity and to set yourself up for success as a leader. Discard the actor, be authentically confident. So what that means is you've probably all heard of fake it before you make it. And I tell you, I've used that before many times, and we have to. A lot of times we have to do that, right? There are things that are outside of our control, and we just have to go in and do the job. But we don't want to do that all the time. And we want to make sure that our staff, the people that we serve, see us as confident leaders, but also that we're transparent. So if we don't know, like, you know what, I'm not sure, the answer to this question or how to solve this problem yet, or what direction we're going, but we will get there. I will get that answer solved. And they will trust that you are going to do that because you are authentically confident. You're transparent, you're confident, you're true to your word. Believe that you are good enough. You wouldn't be in the position you are in if that weren't the case. You are good enough to meet the challenge, to figure it out if you don't know the answer, and to always connect with others. As administrators, you want to make sure you practice what you preach, because I know you're all encouraging your staff to have this healthy work-life balance. But do that yourself too. Make sure that you are doing that as well. And then finally, surround yourself with support. And this is support outside of your school. This could be a spouse or a significant other. It could be a family member, a friend, it could be a mentor. It could be like-minded colleagues in education that can support you. And so with that, I wanted to share with you a little bit of how you can find some support to complement your leadership and share a little bit about our story here at Van Andel Institute. Because just like we have our personal values, we also have our organizational values. And this is what we live by every single day. Every decision is put through this filter. And because of that, we collaborate. We collaborate with each other. We collaborate with teachers and educators outside of our organization. We believe in that. We also want to see transformational change in education by creating resources that support teachers and students. And because of that, we have to be innovative. We need to take risks. So on our mindset, we're trend towards more of the growth mindset. And then finally, we practice what we preach. We bring in our life experiences and we share those with teachers. So we have students that come here and we do programs. We do field trips during the day. We do after school programs. We also teach in other classrooms, and we share what works and we share what doesn't. with teachers in professional development. And so we truly live and breathe education, and we do, like I mentioned, practice what we preach. And so we believe that when supporting teachers and supporting administrators, we need to make sure we give the teachers that foundational support through professional development, professional learning. But we all know that it can't stop there. A 6-hour workshop, a one and done, you're not going to see anything happen in the classroom. It's just not. We need to also make sure our teachers are equipped with those resources, those instructional resources and tools, so that they can take that great rich learning that they had and put it into practice. But again, that's not enough, because just going to a PD and handing some lessons and resources isn't necessarily the support that's going to take them through complete implementation and have that confidence to move forward. We want to make sure teachers have that ongoing support, that they have someone they can connect with if they have a question, they're not sure how to do this. Maybe they need a resource created as well, something that they don't have time to do that we can help. Okay? So that is our approach. And because you are on this webinar, whether live or recorded, I want to share with you a really amazing offer. So if you book any of our PD teacher resources or ongoing coaching support by the end of June, you can receive 20% off. And we also have an opportunity to complete this free needs analysis. And that's a great place to start to really figure out what it is that maybe you want to focus on for next year, both teaching and learning. And even if you don't go with us for PD or resources or coaching, use that, use that to create your school improvement plans, your professional development goals for next school year. All right, so this is my favorite time. This is the giveaway. We're offering a free lunch and learn for up to 20 teachers at your school. This is a 45-minute virtual learning session on a topic of your choice. So there's the QR code there, so you can scan that real quick, or you can grab the bit.ly, which Robin just put in the chat box. Go ahead and enter. Shouldn't take very long. It's a very short survey, and then we will go ahead and draw a winner for this free lunch and learn. We'll draw it tomorrow, and then we'll send follow-up after that. And I just want to thank you very much. Thank you for everything you do every single day to support your students, your staff, and your community. Thank you all.